What genuinely scares you to the core? That everything can change in a second. Just over a year ago my dad went for a walk, had a heart attack and died straight away. He was in great shape. There was no warning and he was only 50. Everything changed that day. This is it. I'm paraphrasing Kurt Vonnegut Jr. when he says his biggest fear is a 4 AM telephone call on a Tuesday. Being tortured. I think I feel a healthy amount of fear towards death. Like I am not thinking or worrying about it every day, but I try not to get in risky situations either. But the thought of someone provoking me an immense amount of physical pain with the whole purpose of making me suffer just scares the crap out of me. That's actually my worst fear. Kidnapped and tortured is like the cruelest way to die. I've seen all the Hostel movies, some Saw movies, and Martyrs French version to know that it is the scariest and most painful way to die. I'm not afraid to die. I'm scared of getting old and losing control over my body and mind. That is far scarier to me than having it all end. This is mine too. I am terrified of Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. Every time I do that thing where you can't remember a word even though it's a word you use all the time, I convince myself it's an early sign and panic. As a 36-year-old man with no kids and having never been married, dying alone, getting old, never having known what it feels like to have someone who chose you scares the heck out of me. I feel this. I'm afraid that I'm too selfish and horrible because I've never dated anyone I love so much that I couldn't wait to spend time with them. Normally I just sort of grudgingly date because I'm supposed to. I like being alone, but I never imagined I'd be alone my whole life. Now that might be the case. I don't know what to do about it. Space. It just scares me to the core to know that we are just casually floating in the darkness filled with gigantic fireballs and who knows what else. That's one of my favorite parts about space. That death really is the end, and the only thing waiting for any of us is total oblivion. I lost my fiance a few years ago, and I'm constantly thinking about death. I don't care about living forever in some paradise in the sky. I just want to be with the people I love. I'm terrified I'll never see him again. Rest assured at least that you're not the only one. I understand that fear in that line of thinking. I try not to think about it though, because no good comes out of worrying about the inevitable. Dementia. We've got a family track record, so what was I saying? Fortunately I live in a country that is passing a euthanasia law. Dementia is so sad. My grandpa had it bad and when he died it was more of a relief than anything else. Everybody knew that the real person had died long ago. He was just a shell at that point. I have a couple. 1. Something happening to my wife and children. 2. Doing everything right financially. Saving for retirement. Investing. Paying down my mortgage. Etc. And everything crashing. As a millennial I have already been through 3 major recessions. I'd prefer to not add a depression onto that. I think about this a lot. I'm doing everything right, but what if that doesn't even matter? I'm sacrificing now to be responsible when maybe it would be better to just enjoy life more in the present. Take more better vacations. You can't know what's going to happen and just have to do what you think is best. I'm not entirely sure how to put it into words, but just how polarized politics has gotten, combined with the mess of misinformation going around and all these different interest groups with mutually exclusive views, each equally deep in their commitments that they are the righteous ones and everyone else is evil. I guess the elusive nature of truth combined with the hard reality that people will absolutely lie and exploit your better nature to further their aims is what scares me the most. I'm saying this as someone on the libertarian left. To speak of my own people, my worry is that my empathy and perhaps naive desire for utopia is just being manipulated so some revolutionary can come into power and then it's just someone else wearing the same goddamn boot that's on all our necks. I recognize as well that this fear plays into the interests of those who want to crush leftist organization. I guess to expand on it a bit, I am deathly scared of being propagandized at, to the extent that I might become someone's dupe. All the while there are atrocities going on the world over and my sitting back doing nothing only helps those responsible for them. TLDR. Baby leftist doesn't have the balls to eat the rich. This is me. I also worry about how little empathy people seem to have for other human beings, whether it's immediately in front of them or in some faraway land. My chronic illness symptoms getting worse, and the thought that I might have to deal with this condition for the rest of my life. I've been sick my entire life and I'm to the point where getting out of bed is an exhausting idea. I know the medicine that will fix me, but I can't get any doctors to give it to me. I'm suffering for literally no reason and I'm terrified I'll never get better. Gangs, not the people in them, what they are capable of. I'm now 28. When I was growing up in a broken down, crappy neighborhood, absolutely littered with gangs, a young girl around 16. She had bipolar disorder 1. She loved modifying parts in an old motorbike she found in the back alley. She would let these guys in a certain gang help her. These guys loved her. She'd play cards and taught them how to cook. She never really attended school, a quiet chill kind of person. This girl eventually got a boyfriend, a popular, butthole kind of guy. He mistreated her so badly, she stopped doing things she loved for him. From what I remember, she was a fairly pale and had longish black hair. She tanned herself for him and became extremely unhappy. Long story short, her boyfriend ended up raping her, filmed it and sent it to those guys in the gang. They ended up killing him. I was told they burnt him badly then shot him in the head. All are in prison now. They tried to speak to her over the phone and even wrote letters to her. I found out she killed herself 2 weeks down the line. They cared about her so much she didn't deserve anything she got. She was mentally unstable and just wanted a job as a mechanic. Gangs scare me shitless. God, what a soul-crushing story. I wish people would never have to experience these things. Being helpless, bedridden and completely dependent on other people. It sounds absolutely soul-crushing and humiliating. The potential existence of an afterlife. I get hit with some strong existential dread every now and then, and it's the worst thing, mentally, I've felt. Same. It's that deep unknown that hangs over my head. We were born into this world and we're lucky to live a decent life, but I only need to look around to see insane suffering. The thought that there could be other worlds in the afterlife like this one is deeply disturbing, and that you have no control over what might happen in the afterlife. I had no control over being born into this world either, so who's to say it won't happen again? I just hate the fact that there is so much unknown stuff, so many questions about the universe and existence that remain unanswered. It's just disturbing what a potential afterlife might look like, and the idea that I have no control is deeply depressing and generates a feeling of helplessness. A lot of crap. The state of the world politically, environmentally and socially. There are so many fires that it's terrifying to think about it all at once. The ocean. Specifically being in it with no land in sight, or being caught in a storm. I am freaking out a little bit just imagining it right now. Losing my daughter. There is nothing more scary to me than the thought of her not being here anymore. It makes me sick only thinking of it. The amount of evil and hatred in this world for no other reason besides simple differences in opinions, race, gender, religion. 1. Dying. 2. Being the last person in my bloodline. 3. Having everyone abandon me. 4. The thought of rejection. Aneurysms. One moment you're doing whatever, and in the blink of an eye you're dead. Usually no early warning signs and can happen to anyone, at any age, for any reason regardless of health or life choices. Have seen one person die suddenly from this, and have known many more. If I'm going to die, I need it to at least block time off on my calendar a week in advance so I can plan around it. For me, it's the idea that you might pop out to the shops or work and just never come home again. It's why I say I love you several times a day and always before going to sleep. The ocean. I used to go to the beach a lot. I usually stayed in the warm shallows, but I was feeling adventurous. I went past the first sandbar right to the second one. I'm standing there looking down at what looks like a straight drop into the abyss. In the shallows the water is clear and warm, but the deep waters get dark, almost black. I could feel a cold current coming from the deep, ice cold water rushing around my ankles. I felt like any moment something would reach from the dark and grab my ankles and yank me underwater. It sparked some kind of primal fear and absolute terror of the open ocean. Cold, no light, nowhere. That was my first experience with the open ocean. Welp, it doesn't end there, cause I, apparently, like to play with death. Me and my sis like to go to the beach when it was really wavy but still safe to swim in. We would swim out into the waters with a floaty and ride the waves back to shore. It was super fun. Well, I had an ingenious idea. How about we go past the second sandbar because the waves are bigger and we will spend more time riding the floaty back to shore. We don't even get 5 feet from the sandbar before a monster butt wave pummels me and my sis. I roll but quickly gain my orientation again. I break the surface laughing. All fun and games, right? No, my sis doesn't surface. The sheer terror I felt was like no other. I screamed her name over and over, but being this far from shore no one can hear you. I dived underwater multiple times looking for her. I was so scared the salt water didn't even bother my eyes when I was looking underwater. She finally broke the surface all on her own. Coughing and crying, I let her ride on my shoulders back to shore to keep her face out of the waves. She was okay. We never did that again. I played with death and almost lost my sis cause of it. The ocean is freaking terrifying. It will easily overpower even the best of swimmers. Spiders, because they are so small and elusive. If you don't kill that bee on the first try, you have to live in fear for your life until it shows itself again. But will you be alive to see it? Flying. Have a horrible phobia of it. Haven't flown in 22 years now. I've missed out on life-changing opportunities because of it. Why couldn't I just be afraid something normal like spiders or clowns? It's so frustrating to see everyone else going all over the world having these adventures and I'm stuck here on the ground missing out on everything because I can't bring myself to get on a plane. Whatever the frick is at the bottom of the sea, those fricking demons are bloody terrifying. And I have Finding Nemo to fricking blame for my deep fear of the deep dark sea. There are giant things down there, watching you, studying you, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do. Octopus City. Zombies, I'll hate them. No, they aren't real, but I can't look at one without freaking out. Only exceptions are Minecraft zombies and P vs Z. I've never been as scared as I was when my mom had COVID and she was in the hospital on 12 L of oxygen and I received a call from the hospital at 2 AM. She was fine. They just called to let me know that after not being able to sleep for a few days, she was finally sleeping. Any sort of apocalypse where the world isn't completely destroyed, like if a zombie apocalypse happened, I'd probably get shot in the leg when the horde comes. Death. I am terrified of dying. The unknown. Even if you are biologically dead and you feels nothingness, the nothingness itself still are feelings and that makes you feels alive. Our current environmental situation. While there is a trending movement, I would expect that there would be far more emphasis to fix what's going on with our environment. I'm on the west coast of Canada and I remember the last couple years of forest fires. It's not hard for me to wonder of what's to come. It feels like, to me, that we should be reacting with the same enforcement and vigor as the COVID-19 pandemic, but instead we're seeing no real leadership. I hope to see more this year, but unfortunately my hopes are not terribly high. It's hard to think of a future or starting a family when we see multiple signs that 2050 could be a make or break time, and even that feels like it's under contention continuously. The fact that in America there's clearly a media bias towards corporation and social ideas, and the way they are pushing culture fast is by ruining the lives of anyone that disagree with them, and no one does anything about it. That my neighbor literally believes that a secret cabal of pedophiles is injecting us with Chinese nanobots via vaccines. He also believes that Trump won the last election. He never served in the military, yet has adorned his truck with military stickers and ads for firearms. That's bad enough. But what really scares me is that there are many more like him in every town in the US. That's the Alex Jones hyperbole version of what a lot of people believe. My own death. The Christian idea of heaven sounds like heck to me. No free will, no privacy, just singing God's praises 24/7 for eternity. I don't like the atheist version of the afterlife, that there is none any better. I'd rather just be immortal. Bears. I've never encountered one and I never will, but they scare the crap out of me. I have watched too many videos and heard too many tapes of people getting mauled alive for an hour or longer. Seeing planets from space, or close-ups of said planets. I know it's strange AF, but I tell you that once I got scared on a dang physical map of Europe. I don't even know why, but I sure have a problem. Having a long-term illness that is a burden on my family and wipes us out financially. My grandmother has become that kind of burden and she doesn't care and intentionally makes life impossible for my family. We will probably be sending her to live with my piece of crap aunt because of how they both are behaving. My family might lose our house because of everything we are going through. My grandmother needs to be out of the picture. She's not even a good person and she brought her illness on herself. So I have no pity. She can frick right off at this point. A swarm of flying cockroaches. When I first bought my house, in the US South, it had been abandoned for a few years. I didn't move my belongings in right away because I knew it needed deep cleaning and infestation control of all kinds. First day, I cut open the wall-to-wall carpet to remove it. An entire mess of palmetto roaches, the huge flying American cockroaches, came flying and crawling and swarming out of the gap. I screamed and flailed so loudly that my neighbor came over to see if I was being murdered. She was greeted by me bursting out of the door, still screaming, running blindly past her, followed by a ton of roaches. That's how we met. I had another screaming and flailing fit when I realized the previous folks had left the garbage bin full for years. So I pulled it away from my house, knowing it'd be full of bugs, then just dumped it on the lawn and ran away, preemptively screaming. It was an interesting first week of home ownership. And how did I get the nerve to actually live there after that? Well, the big mortgage was a factor. But jokes aside, I ripped out all that carpet. I lived on just the concrete slab for a few years until I could afford bamboo flooring. Finished just in time for COVID. I sprayed inside and out religiously as often as the label said I could. I was sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor for about a month while I did the initial renovations to get it livable. One night I was sleeping and one of those demon pets dropped from the ceiling and onto my face. Being trapped in the sleeping bag, not wanting to scream because it's, you know, on my face, trying to wriggle worm my way out, was horrible. When I got free and it flopped onto the floor, I beat it to death with a clothing rod that was on the floor. I also stopped zipping my bag at night. Ugh. It was a rough first couple months, but I eventually got all the generations. I spray monthly now. I haven't seen one in my house in years. They're native here, so I'll find them in yard and shed. But this is my house, dang it. TLDR. I don't know either. It sucked, but it's good now. Swimming in a body of water that I can't see the bottom of. Scuba diver here. I have occasionally had the experience of swimming at depth between 2 points without being able to see either, following my compass for direction and monitoring my computer for depth. It's almost like a sensory deprivation experience. Very weird and strangely peaceful. This was in tropical waters, which reduces the stress level, and I am not frightened of sharks or the kraken because they are not actually a threat to divers. Phone calls late at night or at awkward times when people normally don't call. Those are never good calls. One time my phone rang at 2 AM and I was up so I answered it. It was some chatty guy calling from Bulgaria trying to find out when the local Bulgarian embassy was open. I live in America. I googled it for him and then he told me his story about how his family is immigrating. I told him some of my life story as well. After 20 minutes of chatting we said bye and I wondered WTF just happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.